Welcome back to Lassoing Leadership. I'm Jason Rogers. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I'm here today joined with the other co-host, none other than Garth Nichols. Garth, it's good to see you this morning. How's 2026 treating you so far?
It's so great. Actually, you know what, Jason? It's the first day with the kids coming back just last week when we dropped the other episode. And someone gave me this.
Oh, look at
Biscuits with
that.
the boss. They had gone to London. They got me this. These are Ted Lasso. If you're watching this, you can see the box. It's beautiful pink, and it brought me back. So I posted on Instagram from our Instagram account. It was just one of those nice things. It's like, oh yeah, Ted Lasso's coming back, so I feel good about it.
Yeah, it's a good reminder of all things are important, I think, and Biscuits with the Boss. It's a really nice opportunity for us to show people they matter, Garth. And I think it's a really nice tie into what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks. What's your takeaway? I mean,
Yeah.
we did our intro and we did the conversation with Zach. We both had a chance to re-listen to the conversation with Zach. And what do you think? What are you left with?
I'm left with this. I'm left with the idea that mattering is actually quite complex, right?
Mhm.
There, that he works at the Center for Meaning and Purpose. He has written an entire book about this. This is something that leaders can spend and probably should spend and probably must spend a lot of time on in terms of
Mhm.
understanding the impacts, understanding the strategic tactics that you can take to make sure that people know that they are worthy, that they're capable, that they have, that they are valued at your organization. That's something that really stuck with me. But there's also like a dark side to this, which is anti-mattering,
Yeah,
like
right.
de-mattering. And he told a really great story about that. And the story was captured by him talking about once you see something, you can't unsee it. And his
Yeah.
time working at an airport, as soon as he put on that vest to go and clean uh, the the planes, that he was just immediately unseen. And it's this idea of, how can a leader make sure that they are seeing into the cracks, into the nooks of your school, to make sure that you are seeing what is commonly unseen. That stuck
And I
with me,
think
Jason. What do you think?
Well, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think the other part that I was left with was, something that I think about an awful lot is the tactical nature of gratitude.
Yeah.
And, I hate to put tactical and gratitude together because I don't feel like they fit together. But I think, Zach does say to us that, there is a skill, there's an art and science to providing gratitude that will elevate the
Yeah.
practice for not only yourself, but for others. So for me, that was a big takeaway. But before we get too deep on it, Garth, I want to come back. Let's start with the dark and then move to the light, if you will. So
Yeah.
let's talk about anti-mattering. How do you see it in your environment, or like how do you as a leader counter anti-mattering? Like what's your practical advice now that we've introed and done the interview with Zach? Like what advice would you pass off to our listeners in the space of avoiding anti-mattering?
Yeah, I would say that anti-mattering, like mattering, anti-mattering is created in small
Hmm.
moments where you are, as a leader, maybe on autopilot.
Hmm.
You are maybe saying the words, but they're not authentic. Maybe you're saying thank you, but you're not explaining why. Um, in Zach's recounting, it was, there's no eye contact. There's no acknowledgement of existence. And I think that sometimes, even though you might talk to people every day, you might see them in the hallways every day, you need to go that one step further to make sure that you are connecting with them. But Jason, you said that, tactics and gratitude don't belong in the same thing, but I do think there's a habit here, right? And there's a
Hmm.
habit of gratitude, but there's also a dangerous habit of just having a script, words, that come on autopilot, that become performative as
Hmm.
opposed to authentic. And so
Hmm.
that's how I see that playing out. And I think for leaders, it's constantly, we've talked about this ad nauseum now at this point, but it's constantly connecting, listening, and getting to know people, and then showing people that you know them. And you have a great habit of doing that, right? At the end of every week, you have that habit of gratitude.
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about that in the past. I I agree with you, Garth. I need to share a story though, and this happened just yesterday, and I kind of wish we're talking to Zach, but I'm gonna pretend you're Zach for a minute,
Okay.
and I want to share this story just for our listeners and for you. So I was walking around our school, looking for moments of connection, I guess, and I was called into the art room. And I went into the art room. There's this young woman there, grade 12, and she just completed her work for the term. And it's a beautiful painting, unreal. It's the nicest painting I've ever seen in from a grade 12 student. Unbelievable. It says I won't even try to describe it because wouldn't do justice to its beauty. But just imagine the most beautiful painting you've ever seen. And I stood with her and I said to her, listen, what was the hardest part of this painting? What's this painting to say to me? What inspired you to do the painting?
Yeah.
And she had like really reflective, interesting bits about it. Then the last question I said is, how do you feel now that you've completed this painting? And she said to me, I feel stupid. And I said,
What?
yeah, right. And I did that. I go, what? Say that again. She goes, well, I was just in another class, and my teacher in the other class was talking about exams, and this other teacher said that some of the students have gotten 100% on the exam, and I'm not that good in that subject, and I'll never get 100%, and so I can't get over the
Mm,
fact that I'm not smart enough in that class to live up to their standard. And I was just struck, by the fact that I'm standing in front of what I think is a masterpiece when it comes to art. And this student's only emotion upon completing and delivering what's clearly a masterpiece of art is that they're inadequate. And so I
mm,
bring this all the way back to antimattering and you know, perhaps the subconscious triggers we throw into the environment that have people leaving themselves feeling like they're not significant. And I don't know, it's just a point of reflection for me, and I hope for
yeah.
leaders and for others, that even sometimes our best intentions, um, and no doubt the subject area teacher had best intentions. They're inspiring their
Yeah.
class to achieve
Yeah.
their
Yeah.
potential. They're doing all the
Yeah.
things we say we do. They did nothing wrong. That's entirely clear. But sometimes our best intentions leave people with residue, like emotional residue. And I think that's something to be conscious of.
Mm,
I don't think it should stop us in our pursuit of mattering or micro moments or acknowledgement or gratitude. But I do think there is something to be said about significance or anti-significance by the
yeah.
words and actions we take for others. What do you take from that, Garth? How's that sitting with you?
Wow. Well, I mean, that's the double-edged sword of education, right? Like
Mm, mm,
support and challenge. How do you motivate young people? Um, but that's yeah, it makes me a little sad because you, like Zach talked about, we have four gifts that we bring, right?
mm,
Areas of strength and those types of things. This young student of yours clearly has a gift, but is unable to be recognized for or have the self-esteem to
mm,
recognize that, yeah, she might not have the skill or the knowledge at the level of equivalency of others in those areas, but there's something to be proud of here. There's something to be recognized. I'm curious, how did you leave it with that student?
Well, we. I'm reminded by Todd Rowe's book "End of Average" all the time.
Oh
I think
yeah.
about it all
Yeah,
the time,
yeah.
right? And I've got it right here, actually. It's ironic, but the "End of Average," Todd Rowe's, he talks a lot about the fact that everybody has strengths and aptitudes that are
Yeah.
unique to themselves, and we should honor those. And so we spent a moment. I actually got to spend about 10 minutes with this young woman. We talked about the fact that if an engineer needed to write an essay, was it important that it was 100% essay that they wrote? And the answer is no. What's important is that the bridge is structurally sound. And that's
Mm,
what we rely on the engineer for. And could we count on, perhaps a poet to do a spreadsheet? Probably not, nor would we expect them to do a spreadsheet at a 100% rate. But we would love for the poem to create some kind of emotion in us. And that's what the poet does well. And so we
mm,
talked a little bit about strengths and aptitudes across different domains. and I'm not sure I broke through. Like, honestly, I don't think I actually broke through. Um, but maybe I left her with something to think
Yeah.
about. But that's really how that conversation wrapped up. And we celebrated her. And the best part was we didn't just celebrate her art. We walked around the room. We celebrated. She wanted to celebrate everybody else's art,
Yeah.
right? She wanted to
Yeah.
tell me about the
Well, that's a
beauty of
superpower
other
too.
people's art. Yes, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, of course. And so we did a little art walk and stayed connected. Um, but I think she's left with some of those feelings of inadequacy. And I think systematically in schools, like not just my school, your school, or any of our schools, I think we need to continue to think about neurodivergence. We need to continue to think about
Yeah.
acceptance, end of average, about unique talents and attributes, and celebrating those through gratitude. And back to what Zach was saying about in those specific kind of tactical ways of celebrating people.
Yeah. And Jason, hope isn't a strategy, but without hope, strategies tend to fail.
Hmm.
And I hope, that what you just spending time with that young woman as a leader,
Hmm.
talking to her in those ways that you have, that she will understand that she is valued. You know,
Hmm.
that's the part that Zach spoke about, that
Hmm.
people need to feel valued before they actually add value. You talked about the river rats, talked about
Yes.
a couple of different examples in the podcast, but certainly in the book too. You need to be valued in order to add value,
Hmm.
because it gives you self-esteem, it gives you self-efficacy. It lets you know
Hmm.
that you are worthy, it lets you know that you are capable. So hopefully, as the saying goes, you've planted seeds, the trees of which you'll never sit under the shade of. But
Hmm.
hopefully, like if she understands that and hears that from a couple other people, she knows that that skill, at the very least, is valued. And yeah, and she adds value to your school, your organization.
Totally, totally. I think those are the micro moments which may compel us to more broadly think about the macro moments and how do we organizationally talk
Yeah,
with our staff and our faculty and our students and our broader community to really support, like I said, neurodivergence. We don't talk about much on this podcast, but is really a passion of mine. And I think
yeah,
honoring that neurodivergence for every student. And I'm not just talking about learning disabilities here. I'm talking about math strength versus English deficit,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
not even to the point of a learning disability. I think we all have this natural neural divergence in us.
Yeah, we talk about that here as well, where the idea is like at Kingsway, um, that everybody can learn and
Hmm.
everybody wants to learn, right? And teachers are the professionals that help in that learning.
Hmm.
And so I love that. I love that concept of acknowledging, and Lisa D'Amour speaks about this too. Lisa D'Amour, she
Mm.
wrote Untangled. She's written a bunch of great books. And she talks about how it's okay to get a certain level, a grade in this, because you're actually working harder at this and you're pursuing your purpose and your passion in these grades. So she's really talking about anti-perfectionism, but it's the idea you need to spread your energy out in ways that fill you with joy, in ways that allow you to access your purpose. So yeah. Yeah, yeah. So the other thing too, Jason, that your story is coming up or bringing up for me is what he talked about, which I really loved. He talked about the idea that we need to rediscover the astonishment that there are people in our lives that make our lives possible. And I just read this book
Yeah.
called The Genius Myth.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a good book. I'm 2/3 of the way through myself, Garth.
It's a great book, and there is one example. The author, her writing style is amazing. I love it, and she goes
Yeah.
these backhanded, offhanded comments about, I forget. I think it was John Maynard Keynes. Like, oh yeah, this guy, this white male came with, this is how economy really works. People, like, get in line. This is how it really works. But he was only able to do that act of genius because of the unpaid labor that his wife and his family were supplying him in order to make sure that he was clothed and
Yes.
fed and all those other things, right? It's truly a community. It takes a community to raise a village, like it takes a village to raise a kid, but this notion of unseen, and making sure people feel valued. because we need to rediscover that there are people in your lives that make your life possible. I just love that. I think it's
Well,
beautiful.
I think from a leader's perspective, if we're bringing it back to schools and leaders, I think that's a real challenge. You've provided two great challenges to our listeners in this podcast, Garth, whether you meant to or not. One is to recognize, first of all, the people who make your life possible, right? No matter
Yeah.
which role you're in. And I think we can have that perspective. And if you're listening to this podcast, hopefully you're garnering some of that perspective to kind of look around and say thank you to those people who do make your world possible. I think the second thing, the challenge or provocation you're putting forward, Garth, is, look for the unseen, because you actually have to look for it to see it, which is
Yeah.
the strategy. So like, think about it like this. The yearbook photographer, they're at every event,
Yeah.
and they're capturing those moments for a lifetime, not for a moment, for a
Yeah.
lifetime. And they are unseen, right? So if you want to make an impact, don't write a note to the basketball coach who won the championship. I'm sorry, Garth
Yeah.
Nichols, but write it to the photographer who's capturing that moment that's going to be in the yearbook, or to the yearbook editor who's going to compile those moments and
Yeah.
capture them for a lifetime. Or
Yeah.
perhaps one of my favorite things, if and it's only when appropriate. You don't do this when it's inappropriate or out of line, but if you get to know a parent of a staff or faculty member, and they come around all the time. Winter concerts are the best because people always bring their parents. Take that moment and thank the parent for raising such an incredible human being, and share a specific talent, contribution, or impact that their son or daughter's
Hmm.
had in the school on a student
Hmm.
with the parent. And do you want to see impact?
Yeah.
That's huge, right?
Yeah.
I think there's no greater impact. And I'll share the third thing. My highlight of my entire winter holidays was our elementary principal. Her name's Ashley. Wrote a note to my son Emmett and put it in the mail. And it's basically a 2-page note, Garth. It's incredible, and it talks about everything from his smile to his curiosity to his love of rubber ducks, and then talks about his
I've seen the
contributions to
rubber
the
duck
school.
collection.
Yeah, I know. So, what we did was we read it out loud to him. So you should have
Mm.
seen how proud he was to have been seen and know that he's significant. But then we gave it to his grandparents, and his
Mm.
grandparents insisted on reading it aloud to him as well. And you should
Oh.
have seen the pride in those
Oh,
moments. And
yeah.
so it was a masterclass in
Yeah.
exposing the unseen. So I
Yeah.
think you've got three kind of provocations that we've brought forward, at least in the course of this mattering triad.
Yeah, and let's get specific too, because the one of the big takeaways was that gratitude can be performative, and
Mm-hmm.
you're a master at this yourself, Jason, in terms of how you show gratitude to the thousands of people in the Rundle community. But specifically, Zach says, it's all in the delivery. And he talks about the Nan um, sort of process. So you got to notice, you got to affirm, and how they are,
Mm-hmm.
and understand how they are needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I mentioned earlier there are 4 gifts, and the gifts we give to others are our strengths, our purpose, our perspective, and our wisdom. And so you need to, in order for gratitude to not be performative, you need to notice what they've done, name
Mm-hmm.
it. You need to affirm it. Show people what they give you. One of the 4 gifts, like I really loved your, the way that you brought to life, discussions in our professional development yesterday or whatever it was, and then show them the impact,
Mm-hmm.
because you brought these things to life. Your group produced some great work. Thank you so much. It's going to go a long way in our, towards our strategic direction or whatever it is. And that's the way that we do that. So yeah, there's a strategy to it, right? But hopefully that strategy will become a habit, and that habit will develop your leadership to be something that people want to follow. And I think that's really important. And so there you go, listeners. Like there's your challenge. There's your challenge for you. Look for the unseen, and then make sure that you see them in a way that's going to actually make an impact on them, much like Ashley on Emmett.
You got it. And so, Garth, as we wrap up, I want to again thank Zach for joining us on the show and for providing this work to the world. It truly does matter to us, and I hope to our listeners. And I think it's making our schools and organizations better places. So Zach, thanks for joining us. And while we're on gratitude for a moment,
Oh,
Garth, shall we shout out our next triad and bring people into the next series of podcasts?
well, it's not a triad, Jason.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a quadra.
Quattro? What do you
Qua-
call 4
I don't
podcasts? I
know.
don't know.
Quattro. Let's go with quattro. Yeah, we're going to be introducing George Couros. Now, many people know George Couros from his wildly popular book from a number of years ago called The Innovator's Mindset. But he's recent, so we're going to talk to him about that. So that's one book. So we'll have an intro. We'll talk about how we know George and all those great things. And then we'll talk about the innovator's mindset with him. And then we're going to go right to his next book, the one that was just released a couple of weeks ago. It's called Forward Together. Super exciting. And then we'll do our wrap up. These books by George are highly accessible. So we hope that you're will join us on that. Maybe dust off your copy of The Innovator's Mindset, because it certainly was a popular book when it first came out.
And George talks about this. I'm not giving away too much, but in one of our podcasts, he read how to what's Carnegie book? How to
How to make
influence
friends.
make friends and influence people.
Influence.
And
Yeah.
and he said that he read that book, 40, 50 years after it was published, and thought, oh my goodness, this is so relevant today. And his hope for the innovator's mindset was that it
Yeah.
would be relevant 10, 20, 30, 50 years later. And
Yep.
you know what? I think it is. I think when you say dust it off, you're going to read it and think that could be written, last year and still be really, really important. So
Yeah.
dust it off and also download his new book, I think, or order it. I think you'll enjoy it. And more than anything, I think you're going to enjoy these conversations with George. He's a great guest.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thanks, folks. And a huge shout out again to Zach for joining us. Like, what a special moment that was for Jason and I. Really, really appreciate it. So until next time, listeners, keep leading and reading the Lasso way.
All right. Thanks, Garth. That was fun.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks to everybody.
Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow.
Jason, how can we talk all this time about the unseen without recognizing Dr. Jason Rogers and all you do on this podcast that is unseen? So
No.
Jason, you steward,
Trick me into recording this. No, I'm not.
No. You steward our virtual recording studio, Riverside. You organize the recordings. You do any editing. Now, we usually are one take wonder, but you do any editing that we have to do. And it's no small feat. So we challenged our listeners to look for the unseen. So there's the unseen for us.
Okay.
You do a lot of work in the background, and I really, really appreciate it.
Oh,
Also,
brother, I
while
appreciate
we're doing this, let's shout out a couple of people that make it possible too. So our jingle is provided by Les Macbeth.
Yeah, unbelievable. Love her.
And our artwork is provided by one of my oldest, bestest friends, Sean Dempsey, 2 and 10. That's the name of his company. He does amazing work, but he provided all the artwork. So, as I said, there are people in our lives that make our lives possible, that make this podcast possible.
And let us not forget too, Garth. And by the way, thank you. Okay,
You're welcome.
I feel noticed, affirmed. I feel all the things. I appreciate it. And let's not forget that we've had probably 75 guests on this show, and not one of them is a paid guest.
Not
maybe
one
with
of
a beer. Like maybe we gave somebody a beer once to be on the show, but it's rare if we do that. But what a gift. I mean, think of that. 75 people giving their professional time and expertise. I'm so grateful for that.
So grateful. The impact you've had on us and our thinking has been amazing. So thank you for the gifts that you bring us, your purpose, your strength, your perspective, and your wisdom, because it makes this show better and it makes our leadership better, like individually.
Okay, I'm going to get off this Zoom or whatever this thing is so I can get to editing, Garth. I want to get this episode up.
All right. Thanks,
You're
Jason.
welcome. Yeah, okay.
Grab your coffee, grab your seat. It's time to learn, it's time to meet. Garth and Jason setting the tone. Leadership lessons to take back home. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the stories flow. Unpacking lessons as we grow. Keep leading the lasso way. Together we'll grow stronger every day. So plug in your headphones and let's start the show. With lessons from Ted, we'll learn and grow. Lassoing leadership, sharp and true. Beard's Book Club got wisdom for you. Turn the pages, let the